Hey folks, hey, it is Monday morning. I am live. I'm not even sure how many folks are going to show up this time. Not going to lie. It's been a day. It's been a weekend. Okay. We had a full moon in Leo yesterday, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Okay. So I'm going to give it just a minute or two. Not really expecting too many folks to be able to show up live with me this morning. Because again, I usually record these episodes every week. If you are listening to this on a platform outside of my Patreon on Sundays at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. So if you want to catch a live taping of Yapping with the Stars, you can join me on my Patreon at the free level or higher. Anyone at the free level has access to any lives that I do on my Patreon. But the recording of that, the full recording, is at the groundscape level or higher. So yesterday was a full moon in Leo, February 1st, but shit, that full moon was full mooning, all right? And because of that, I've had to shift my live to this morning. We're going to get into what happened yesterday for me with this full moon in Leo, but it really is an embodiment of the energy of Leo overall that's been going on, okay? So while we're here, y'all, something I want to talk about, we're gonna get into today is the idea of what is the Leo archetype? Okay, yesterday was the full moon in Leo. We got a lot of things changing this week, which is just the opening of this month where there's a lot of change happening. Like I said last week, like I've been saying since this kind of 2026 kicked off, we are just at the beginning of a massive cycle of change initiated last year by Pluto that moved into Aquarius. And now this year, all the other planets change signs. So what happens when change knocks at the door? Well, you're going to have to find your inner light, your inner shine, your inner motivation. And this is where Leo is coming in right now. So this full moon in Leo is illuminating exactly where you need to kind of find your light, your heart space, your inner child, and figure out what it means for you to protect it. All right. So let's get into it, y'all, because there's a lot of stuff going on. And it is Monday morning. So I don't care where you are. Grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab your weed, grab whatever you need, and let's get into it, okay? All right. So we need new stories, y'all. We need new archetypes. We need new worlds. To do that, we got to stop performing the scripts that have been handed to us and start to write the ones that allow our inner selves to emerge. So Leo, the lion, is the performer, the embodiment of the sun whose sole purpose is to shine. So to provide light to a solar system, it is up to the other planets and stars to take that light and transmute it for their own purposes. So the sun must shine as a way to help others in the darkness find their light. So what did this full moon in Leo highlight for you, where you let group think and action dictate how you shine your light? And what happens if you redirect that energy to the self so that you find the collectives that can hold that light? Well, in order for you to do that, you got to drop the mask of conformity and lean into the embodiment of your individuality. This is the weekly forecast, y'all, for February 1st through 7th, 2026, the full moon in Leo. What masks need to drop? Welcome back to Yapping with the Stars, the show where I talk about what it means and takes for us to become human once again in a world that's trying to convince us that this is all there is, and it's not. So let's talk with the cosmos and see what else is possible. I am your host and guide, Dr. Nicole Rouse, a storyteller who comes from a line of storytellers who weave and tell stories in many different ways. And as an anthropologist, astrologer, and artist, I work with astrology and ethnography to explore the stories of what it means for us to be human. Because right now the present is up for grabs. So who is leading the stories that will bring us into our futures? Now, every Sunday, but today is going to be Monday, we check into the chaos we call society and ask two questions. What's the cosmos showing us this week? And what are we being called to move, create, burn, build, or reflect upon? Now, before I get into it, I got a lot of this month is a number of different changes. And for me, it's also a number of different events that I'm doing. A part of this kind of building, moving, and reflecting upon energy, especially for me as a Leo sun with the Leo North Node in my 10th house. This shit is loud for me right now. And so I'll be outside this month, y'all. If you are in Chicago, please come and see me. I got a couple of different events that I'll be working with astrology and with dreaming. Something that's really big right now. Right now in the cosmos. And the first is going to be a Babe Sport Bar, which is a new lesbian-owned women's sport bar in the city, and it only plays women's sports. It is owned by former women athletes, and it's actually a really cool place. And so I'm going to be doing some experimenting there with Babe. So I'll be there on the 14th of this month doing an astrology pop-up, y'all. So it's February, Valentine's Day, right? Love is in the air, but what the hell does love mean, right? In a society that has only taught us conformity as a means of love. Well, astrology can really help us kind of sift through and kind of really queer our understanding of what it means to be in relationship with ourselves and one another. So if you want to kind of get a taste of what your astrology chart is saying for the moment, come on out to Babes on the 14th. I'm doing 20-minute readings, $30 for 20 minutes. Sign up starts at 4:30 p.m. and I'll be reading from 5 to 8 p.m. So come on now, have a drink, get your cards ready. You might find a boo yourself, okay? And then later on, I'll be back at Babes on the 25th on Wednesday at 7 p.m. And there I'll be doing an in-person conversation about the astrology of 2026. And I'll be doing it from a Black queer lens. So it's called Queer in the Astrology of 2026, y'all. We might as well examine these transits from a different perspective by interrogating the ways in which we understand these planets and what it means to be in various signs. The biggest one being Aries this year. We're going to get into it at Babes, but what does it mean for Neptune and Saturn to go into Aries if we understand Saturn as the crone and not the patriarch? So that's what I mean when I say queering the astrology. We have to ask different questions and kind of demand of ourselves different explanations of what the cosmos is trying to show us. Because why would the cosmos, think about this, y'all, why would the cosmos in this year, right, from starting from last year to this year, have everything change if it's not asking us to change our relationship to all forms of life, to ourselves, one another, land, its spirit, right? The energies themselves. So if the planets are changing and it is a reset, then why don't we take that as permission to reset ourselves, right? To reset these concepts, to reset in the ways that we even think about what change means, how we enact it, and the responsibility we have to take as human beings in this thing called life. So let's get into it, y'all. If tickets are a sliding scale, 15, $20. My friend Forrest is going to be there, my creative partner. He's going to be spinning some tunes afterwards. And we're going to kind of get into and embody this energy of change in a time that we have to own our own heads, okay? Now, before then, if you are in Chicago on the 17th, I'll be at Dorothy Downstairs for my very last Queering Chaos conversation, which is part of my larger Queering Chaos project. And funny enough, that Queering the Astrology of 2026 is also part of the project. This idea of how do we disrupt all aspects of life through a queer lens. And so the last Queering Chaos conversation, I'll be queering dreams and dreaming. And I'll be talking with two of my really good friends who I consider family, who are also two Black queer artists, Dr. Moya Bailey and Forrest Brooks. So Forrest, again, will be spinning on the turntables because we dream through music. And we also make music together. And Moya and I dream through storytelling, talking, and throwing cards, working with spirit. So what I want to do is sit there or engage with the audience and show what it means to dream and bring those dreams into reality using myself as the template. So come on out there, y'all. It's the last Queering Chaos. I'm going to have a group altar. We're going to have, again, music after. It's a place and space to conjure. And the 17th is also the new moon in Aquarius. It's a new moon in Aquarius. It's a solar eclipse, and it's the Lunar New Year. So might as well literally on the day of new beginnings in the sign of the collective that is ruled by the mother of Saturn, who will be in the sign of Aries, which is telling us to grow up and own our head. We might as well do it together, right? So let's conjure new worlds. So come on out February 17th, okay? And the last thing I'm going to say is part of the, as I've been doing this work in the public, y'all, especially trying to engage with what it means to dream outside of the colonial project by examining what the colonial project is. This idea of deconstruction has really been coming up a lot in my work for a while. And when I'm working with folks and talking with folks and even engaging in the public, there is a way I can hear, right, and smell the colonial still there, even as folks believe that they have moved outside of these kind of binary constructs because the binary is still there. There's ways that it's not just about the church, y'all. It's not just about leaving Christianity, right? It's about understanding how the constructs, right, of the colonial project that have been situated through space and time out of, say, like places like Rome, how they are so good at reproducing themselves and finding and showing up in different ways. So even if you've left the church, there is a way that binary thinking really plagues us, right? This either or, yes, no, black and white. The ideas of time and I losing time and thinking time is linear. Ideas of hierarchy and understandings of life being something of a constant yes or no. Again, going back to a binary. These are all constructs and concepts that require a deconstruction, right? So if we're talking about building new worlds, if we're talking about creating new stories, it's really easy to replicate the same story when we don't understand the foundations, right, of what allows these systems to maintain themselves. Yes, we know the terms patriarchy and capitalism and all of those isms, right? But after underneath the ism, what is it? Like, what's the essence? What is the thing that keeps holding us on? And it really is our understanding of time, right? Our understanding of living and our understanding of life. And if we can break that outside of these binaries, outside of linearity, outside of this idea that as we believe time moves forward, so do we. If we break all of that and actually queer it, right, that's a deconstruction process. So what I'm going to be doing is teaching deconstruction in hoodoo this month. It's Black History Month. And I found that a lot of these things, a lot of the concepts and constructs that people are trying to learn over the past few years, especially when Neptune was in Pisces, right? A lot of folks went to different types of teachers and spiritual leaders and stuff. There was a way that there was some steps skipped. I really do believe some steps were skipped, and a really big step was getting into what it means to deconstruct from the colonial project. What does it mean to reclaim the human by reclaiming the body that was stolen, that we have been trained over space and time to not believe, to actually suppress, to disassociate from? All this shit we've been hearing about people going into the 5D the past 10 years, right? And we know where people are talking about how they're the Anunnaki and not really human, right? The way that the colonial project has made us afraid to be human, to embody our humanity and think that that's somehow enlightenment, has to be really reinterrogated and brought back. So I'm going to do that and start that process in the class that I'm teaching through Mambo, Big Liz Conjure, Jesus, deconstruction and hoodoo. So I'll be teaching that on the 19th. And then on the 24th, I'll be teaching astrology and hoodoo. So these will be two classes that I'm experimenting with right now. They're limited in size so that I can actually work with a small group of people. But if you want more information about that, please see the show notes, and it will be on my website as well as Big Liz Conjures website too. So this actually really goes well into this full moon in Leo that we're energy in right now, because there is a way that we're being asked to deconstruct our understanding of ourselves, right? Leo is the heart. Leo is the center. Leo is the sun. Leo is also the father. And this full moon in Leo is opposing Aquarius, their sister signs, right? And Aquarius is loud right now because Saturn is loud. Saturn ruled signs of Capricorn and Aquarius have forced us as we come into this new year to have to remember that we are human, right? If you really think about it, Capricorn season had all the inner planets. It had the big stellium. Stellium being 3 or more planets in a sign and or house. And since I use whole signs, we're talking about it in signs, okay? There was all these inner planets in Capricorn, which is the bones, the structure, the kind of foundations of things. Capricorn being the earth feminine sign of Saturn. And again, and over here, we see Saturn as the crone emerging from the deep waters of Pisces, coming into Aries next week. Now we're seeing her other sign of Aquarius being lit up. It is the masculine air version of her, right? It is the water bearer. It is the understanding that if we need systems and structures, right? Capricorn, it gets into the bones of things. It's the foundations. It's the earth. Well, then those structures need people, right? So Aquarius reminds us of the collectives that then have to collectivize in order to enact and maintain said structures in society, right? Remember, Saturn is the planet of time and boundaries and reality, right? Right now, Aquarius has not only the sun in there, we have Pluto, we have Mars, we have Venus, we have Mercury. And all of that is sitting in the sign of the collective that is opposing the sun, opposing Leo, but Leo in the dark. So, right now, what's being illuminated are the ways that our individual understandings of self, right? The kind of scripts we put on, the kind of masks we perform, the kind of ways that we felt like we should show up. Well, that is getting a hard look as we are having to see the collectives that are formulated based upon those selves, right? This is a breakdown, y'all. This is a breakdown of the illusions that we could give up our authority collectively to one charismatic leader, because Leo, again, is the sun. So it's going to be that kind of father figure. When we look about and understand society from a patriarchal perspective, because that's what we live in. We live in the time of the patriarch, right? We have for millennia. Pluto is having us as a collective in that kind of death and transformation, is having us at the very beginning of its stages, having to reflect, having to die, having to understand the ways that what we've held on to has been this kind of bastardized understanding of a leader. Pluto is having us reflect upon who the collective has allowed to lead us. And in doing so, right, that Leo is having to really be able to prove or show that it can lead the way it's supposed to. But what we're seeing right now with the leaders that we have elevated, that the collective, whether by force or by consent, right, who we've given our authority up to, has been these leaders that cannot hold that light. So we're seeing the downfall of leaders right now. We're seeing the ways that the collective has to honestly take the responsibility for the ways that we have collectivized and elevated leaders that cannot actually hold that light. So as we are seeing the fall of leaders, and it's just the beginning, this full moon is illuminating things, right? We're seeing exactly what society has allowed. I'm going to talk about Epstein in a minute when it comes to this, honestly, because the Epstein files have been a big light shining upon the population. And I'm really sick of the way in which people are using and weaponizing those fucking files to skirt the responsibility that the only reason we have an Epstein, the only reason we have an R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, what's that director's name, Harvey Weinstein, all of these men in power, right, who weaponize and utilize sexual violence as a means of maintaining that power, right? That has been allowed to happen because because the society at the foundational level of the family have also allowed that shit, right? Our leaders reflect our collective understanding, right? Our leaders reflect what the collective will and will not allow. And that does not mean to say that somehow power is not being enacted and they're not having violence enacted upon us. And yes, we can talk about how the narrative is always kind of controlled. But let's be real, y'all. If we're talking about Aquarius and this Pluto and Aquarius season and revolution that these fucking astrologers, everybody keeps invoking, because we're talking about how this is the time of the revolutions back in the day, and America gained its independence when Pluto was in Aquarius, and Civil War happened when Neptune was in Aries. All of these kind of signalings to the past, right, as a way to, quite frankly, fearmonger instead of learning from it. What we are really seeing, right, is our commitment to these kind of stories, that there's an inevitability that we always are going to have some big daddy kind of leader that is always going to push down upon us, while at the same time being told that the population will rise again. What does that mean, right? When we have not learned from the past, we just keep replicating it. So right now, there is a hard look we are having to see as a society about what has been allowed to exist, and then how that translates into our leadership. And if we don't like the leaders that are leading us because they are leading us into damnation, then we have to stop allowing that shit to maintain itself in the collectives that we are in. So this is that growing up I'm talking about. Saturn is saying that what we are experiencing, right, is the impact of sitting in delusions for far too long. The delusion that somehow somebody else is going to save us. The delusion that somehow we had no responsibility in the construction of the society. The delusion that somehow we can consume the dead and think that past actions of people who came before us will somehow magically appear in the present, and then we'll be free. What we are seeing is what it's going to take for us to get our light back. And in order for us to get our life back, there is a hell of a lot of bulldozing. There's a hell of a lot of deconstruction. There's a hell of a lot of owning of a responsibility and a hard reality that our leadership, that who we have seen as leading us somewhere has led us into nothing more than being sick and ignorant. So what does it mean for a population to learn how to care for itself? I wasn't online yesterday because I had to honestly calm down. Um, be due to the fact that I am realizing just how scary it is to age. I have an elder. There's an elder in the queer community here, who's in the hospital, and so me and a good friend of mine went and saw her yesterday. And a hard reality hit for both of us because we're both in our early 40s, that our care systems, the care systems that we talk about, that a lot of these fucking people in movement making purport to be about, we don't know how to enact them because our elders are sick. Our elders have no care. Our elders have no money. Our elders have no fucking resources. But our elders' names who are still alive are being called down and used by folks who are younger than them in order to make a name for themselves and be the new face of kind of justice making when there's no fucking justice to begin with. So what the hell are we doing, y'all? What are we doing? And yesterday was, and this may be all over the place, and I really don't care because there was a way I had all these ideas and going to talk about Leo and Aquarius and the way that we have to find our light and how do we care for each other and our hearts being open. And then I'm sitting in a fucking room with a woman who is part of a collective that everyone knows about, and most of the folks in those collectives, if they are alive, ain't got a goddamn pot to piss in or a window to throw them out of. What the fuck are we doing, y'all? What the fuck are we doing? And then for the elders, I love y'all, but y'all don't know how to ask for help either. So everyone is performing. Everyone is performing a fucking script of so-called justice. Everyone is performing these kind of ideals of what a utopian world will be. But in the present goddamn day, no one can actually be vulnerable enough and say, I need fucking help. Right? No one's vulnerable enough to say, I don't know what I'm doing. Right? Can we drop the performance? Can we drop the performance of knowing what the hell we're doing and realize that what we really need is care, and we have no idea how to care for ourselves, one another, especially if we are Black and queer, right? This is why I am so adamant against these fucked up ideologies and concepts and theories that folks like to just throw out there and act as if it's doing something. Afro pessimism doesn't do a goddamn thing for us if we think that we are nothing more than Walking Dead as Black people. Who the fuck does that benefit? How is that movement? How does that move us anywhere except for the same goddamn reproduction of a Walking Dead that we are told that we have to be in order to be human in these goddamn societies? Because we are understanding the concept of the human through fucking people who themselves literally sold their own bloodlines out. You see what I'm saying, y'all? This is that. How can you look at humanity and believe the definition of the human from a population that has not been human for a very long time? I am sick of it. I am sick of having to believe that we got to give it up to a goddamn white man who literally shits himself. Come on now. I am sick of this idea that, only when white folks wake up and, use their privilege will we have salvation. When the fuck has a white person ever gotten themselves free or anybody else? Drop the scripts, y'all. We got to figure out how to care for one another. And so I'm sitting in this hospital and I'm having the conversation. We're having the conversation with the doctors, right? And they've ran all these tests and I'm taking notes and my notes just keep getting longer and longer and longer because they keep finding more and more and more because it had been decades, right? Since a real workup had been done. But in those decades, this person's name, this person's work, this person's collective been used over and over and over again to get other people money in movement work. What the fuck are we doing? Full moon in Leo, illuminating from the dark, the way the collective has got to grow the fuck up. Because this is not care, y'all. Leo is the heart. Leo is the child. Leo is care. Do your hearts hurt right now? Are your hearts broken? They should be. Your heart should be breaking right now so that you can actually feel something. To break that shit open and find the actual love, find the care. Because no one is going to save us, y'all. And when we say that, we need to have that sit in our bones. Have it sit in our bones. What does it mean to realize no one is going to save us? So we got to figure out the care networks right now. And you know what's going to require for care, y'all? Resources. We need fucking resources and assets. We need resources and assets, y'all. The collective has got to take this shit back. We have to understand that money itself is not the problem. It's the way that we have been bastardized to be made the locations of how money is made. I am so sick of these fucking movements. Some of y'all who talk about, oh, I don't want to be anti-capitalist, and so I don't want to pay, and we're going to do all these mental backflips to ensure that I can extract from you, but call that justice. No, you have learned how to become a better abuser. You have learned how to abuse yourself and one another better, and that is what has been called revolution. So I couldn't get online yesterday. I didn't know what to say. I was so fucking pissed. I was just pissed and hurt and sad and scared, right? And then also weirdly hopeful, because it's like, well, this is what it means to build a new fucking world. No one's going to give us permission. You know what I mean? Like, who's going to... Who asked their oppressor for permission to live when that's the motherfucker who is killing you to begin with? We talk about the youth. No offense, y'all. How are the youth gonna save us when they're too afraid to answer a fucking phone? Do you see what I mean? We gotta grow up. We gotta grow up. We gotta take back this life. Let the little fucking light shine. We talk about let's little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. You better let your little inner child come out right now. Because right now, for those of us, especially in our 40s and older, our inner child is screaming at us to take care of ourselves. I said it last week, and I learned, and Mambo said it in her class when she was teaching Hoodoo on 100s. Capitalism has been very good. This colonial project has been very good at getting us to be afraid of caring for ourselves, of knowing how to care for ourselves, right? And no, y'all, it is not a soft life to export everything. I'm sorry, it's not. I know it feels like it is. I know we are exhausted. I know it's like, it'll just be easier if I can just pay somebody else to do this, or let me get a soft life and get a partner who takes care of everything. When has that actually worked, though, in the ground? It feels good and but what it's really showing us is that we're exhausted because we don't have the networks. We don't have the systems in place because we're too afraid to actually say our needs, if we do even know them, either for fear of not having them met, of feeling as if you're too much, of all of these emotions. This is why I say, let them come up, y'all. Let the emotions come up and have them motherfuckers sit next to you and talk with them so that they stop working you and you can work with them. We have got to grow up and figure out how we care for ourselves and one another. I mean that. Leo moon, if you haven't realized, if you haven't guessed it, fire moons are a bit emotional. And so you might have been in your feelings too, right? Get in them. Get in them. Okay. I mean that shit. I am so sick and tired of people talking about how you need to, meditate it away and breathe through it and just kind of kumbaya. Oh, fuck that. Light your ass up at this point, because God damn it, we need something else. Do we know how to care for ourselves? Do you know how to ask for care, y'all? I mean this. I know I'm kind of yelling, but it's because I'm trying not to cry. Do we know how to do it? Can we drop the mask? Can we drop the scripts? Can we drop the bad performances? Leo is the performer, y'all. Leo's the entertainer. Why? Because Leo's the child. If you got a little Leo child, let that kid shine. Stop dimming the light of kids. Stop dimming the light of creativity. Stop being so uncomfortable because somebody else is comfortable in their own skin that you must dim their light because someone dimmed the light in you. Let that little Leo baby show you and give you the template of what it means for you to own your light. There's more than enough space, y'all. There's more than enough space. And I mean that. As a Leo sun, I'm a Scorpio rising with a Leo sun and a Leo north node in the 10th fucking house. Right? Something I've realized about myself over the years, especially coming out, is I like a bitch. I like a person that shines. I do. It feels good. The warmth feels good, right? Because I don't have to then dim mine. I can let it shine bright, and two bright shining motherfuckers just gonna be big and bright. Put some damn sunglasses on, put some damn sun lotion on, and get out there and get a little color in your life. Right? Let your light shine. Allow it to crack through the dark in you. Allow it to open up the crevices in you so that your heart expands. And what you're going to feel is that energy called love. And you know what? Sometimes that don't feel very comfortable. Love is not comfortable because love is an action. Care is an action. Can you be exhausted from caring too much? Fuck yes. Of course you can. Do it anyway. That's why you have networks. That's why you have communities. This is why you have other people in your life outside of just a romantic partner, y'all. Do you see what I'm saying? Like yesterday showed me yesterday showed me why I have been so adamant the past 5 months without even realizing it of why I don't want a romantic relationship right now. Romance is cute. I like sex a lot. I love me a grown ass Black woman. God damn, do I love me a woman. But at the same time, what I love more is me and being able to build something sustainably and long term with others. And sometimes you can't start with romance. You got to start with you. You got to start with the human. You got to start with what is it that we're trying to build? What are our dreams and do they come together? Right? Can we see a way that they can come? Can we see each other outside of just the first level of the pleasure, right? I love pleasure, but pleasure has to then not just be the only thing. It has to be what allows us to figure out what we like, right? But then it has to grow into something more sustainable. But we've been taught that we're supposed to look for that one person, make that one person everything. That's not fair to either person. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. I don't care if it's a hetero or a queer relationship. If you make that other person your everything, you have now isolated yourself. You're going to exhaust one another, and you will eventually resent each other because that's not what we're supposed to do, right? And then you have a kid on top of that. Yeah, you're exhausted. We're not supposed to even raise kids by ourselves. When I say that, people get into these kumbaya, like it takes a village. You know what it takes a village? A village takes communication skills. A village takes being really clear about what the community does need. A village takes understanding that compromise does not mean that that is violence towards you or that, no one cares. It means that what is the collective good, but that collective good could only be said if the self is set. You cannot have collectives, y'all, if you do not have a self. Otherwise, you have cults. So right now, Leo and Aquarius is shining a light. Pluto is saying, y'all thought you was going to be a revolution at first. Pluto said the first revolution is going to be y'all motherfuckers got to die because y'all collectives have had elected some dumbass leaders. So what is the self? Pluto is saying, baby, you got to find yourself too. Pluto is saying, let that light shine. Pluto is working with Saturn. Pluto is in a Saturn field sign. Pluto has been in Saturn signs since it came into Capricorn in 08. 08. Right? Pluto is reminding us shit gonna take some time now. Saturn's saying, yeah, time is what you make of it. Time is what you make of it, but time is finite. Why? Because your body is finite. Hence the bones, hence Capricorn ruling the bones of us, y'all, our literal bones, skeletal structure, and our teeth. So do you know how to care for your teeth? Do you know how to care for your back? And I actually do mean that. Do you know how to care for your teeth? Because the elder yesterday has to have all their teeth out. My father had to have all of his teeth out. My mother had to have all of her teeth out. My father having his tooth pulled is what led to his stroke. Why? Because the dentist was quite frankly, we couldn't afford a good one. He was a con man. I can't make this shit up, y'all. That motherfucker, after he pulled my dad's tooth, In the newspaper, it found out that he was arrested for fraud because he was taking x-rays with no motherfucking film in it. He gave my mama some dentures, right? So she had gotten these dentures and she came home and they were so this is not funny. They were so fucking big, y'all. My, my dad wasn't ready. So she came in the house and she used to call him Truesdale. Truesdale, look at my teeth. And he turned around, he says, "Goddamn, woman, what horse came in your mouth?" Because they were so fucking big, y'all. They were so fucked up. So she couldn't use them, right? But long story short, teeth. Our teeth matter. When his tooth got pulled by somebody who was a con man, that led to a stroke, because when you pull a tooth and it's not pulled correctly, it can lead to swelling in the brain. So I'm the one that found my dad. Then a couple months later, after I came home from school, he's in the bed, not able to talk. He's literally slurring his words. And I'm 16, have no idea what to do. So I'm calling my mom, who's a nurse at county, right? Telling her she's got to come home. And next thing I know, Dad's got a stroke. After that, heart attack happened. And then after that, my mom had to go in for a year and a half, having 2 new knees put in and hysterectomy. Care for the body, y'all. I spent most of my goddamn childhood caring for parents who did not know how to care for themselves, and then felt somehow as if it was soft to care for themselves. Even as my mother's a goddamn trauma burn and ICU nurse, and my father had polio before antibiotics came out, so he also was in an iron lung. And that's normalized. And so I'm sitting in the elder's room, right? I'm sitting in this elder's room and listening as she is trying, right, to talk her way out of the reality that you can't live on your own. You can't live on your own anymore. And you're still, because you're so fucking brilliant. She's brilliant, y'all. She's brilliant. Because you're so fucking brilliant, because your mind has been trained to outthink and logic what your body is trying to tell you. You are trying to lie to us in this fucking hospital room. After the doctor just came in and told us every goddamn thing wrong with you. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, I've lived this story before. I've been in this storyline over and over and over and over again with elders. I told this story before, but then it brought me back to, I come home and it brings me back to the 2 Black women who were the first Black women to be tenured at Beloit College, my undergrad, and where I went back and built an office and a bunch of other things. 2 Black women. Deborah came in 1999 when I was a student. So she was the first Black woman coming in as a professor. I was a student. She gets tenure. A year after she retires, she's dead. Exactly a year after she retires, she's dead. In the last year she worked, she was pissing me off. She pissed a lot of us off that cared about her, because she couldn't sit down. Right? She's in her mid 60s, you know, she went back to school later. So she was trying to make sure that she paid off her student loans so that she was debt free. She had a husband. She was getting married again. She was Muslim. So she had an arranged marriage. She liked him. He liked her. I was really happy that she finally found a man who was going to supposedly treat her well. And because she seemed happy. She was going back and forth between Wisconsin and fucking North Carolina because she was trying to quote unquote save money. And all that saving money left her ragged. She had double pneumonia on that fucking Senate floor, trying to support an institution that didn't give a fuck about her. After she retired, she's still so caught up in the drama of the school, right? So she's still trying, she's coming back. You know, she's wants to still be a part of it. I'm confused. I'm over at Brown at this time, and I'm like, stop, like, go live your life. Then I get a call a year later and she's dead. She had cancer. And it was metastasized so quickly by the time they caught it. There was no taking it back. That's what being the first gets you. That's what being the first gets you in these fucking institutions of plantation. Then a few months later, I get a call from friends at Brown, and the second Black woman who's ever been tenured at Beloit, I know her as well, Carla. They found her body in the lake in Michigan. She had taken her own life. Taken 2 fucking weeks for them to find anybody. They finally found a colleague's name on her stuff, and they contacted the school. That's what makes you getting the second is, right? Being the second in these spaces. Something I'm learning more and more is that Black folks aren't allowed to have mental health issues. We're not allowed. Black folks, Black women, Black queer folks, we're not allowed to be both geniuses and sick, right? We have to perform. We have to perform intelligence. We have to perform competence. We have to perform the idea that we can be strong for ourselves and everyone else. But when in actuality, we're just fucking human. We're just human. But we don't know what it means to be human, right? And so we replicate these systems and call it revolution. We say that we want liberation, but all we do is put ourselves into further damnation. And we call that love, even though there's no love to be found in the space. Even though we're in these spaces and we're performing these identities. I remember being in fucking Association of Black Sociologists, you know, the board meetings and blackity black, 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 black. And then we go into these, you know, the sessions and everyone's performing, you know, what the kind of correct deep blackness is in a goddamn conference room with bright lights and the most sterile environments. And then you go to the party at night and everyone's doing a half off beef, swag, and surf, right? And doing all the early 2000s music. But half of y'all had actually ever been in that environment, aren't from those cultural backgrounds. But yet, this is what we call Blackness, right? And I can say the same thing about queerness, about disability, any identity, quite frankly. Okay. We all do this. What has that gotten us? We've been taught how to perform, how to be man, as a way for us to forget what it means to be human. So they need us to believe that Blackness is a social walking death. They need us to believe that we have to do twice as hard to be seen as good as. And then we walk into these spaces. We walk into these spaces and we see just how fucking mediocre they really are. Folks love to quote Michelle and Obama, right? Barack, when they talk about how they walked into these elite spaces and it was nothing but mediocrity. Well, do you believe that, y'all? Because I said the exact same thing. I walked my ass into Brown. Yeah, you had all those fancy white sheets and definitely you could smell and taste the money in there. But the minute you sat down, I realized I was sitting around a bunch of fucking idiots. Inbred, intellectually inbred, theoretically inbred. Shit, they may have been biologically inbred. Right? And when you inbreed, y'all, even Western knowledge production says this. When you inbreed too much, that's going to lead to a retardation of something. And I don't mean that from an ableist way, right? I mean that from an actual scientific validation way. We go into spaces, right? Right? We have to prove ourselves to people who don't even know themselves. How you going to prove yourself to a man who is literally shitting himself on national TV, and that is who was elected as the leader of the free world? And don't talk to me about a stolen election, because that motherfucker was elected in 2016. Okay? The fact that he can get on the ballot, again, shows us what the population wanted. Aquarius, opposite Leo, let the light shine. Leo said, baby, I'm going to let it shine. I'm going to show the collective exactly who they are. When I got the call that Carla had died after Deborah, and I was at Brown, right? I literally looked in the mirror and said, Nicole, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? I knew I was in the plantation. I knew that. I knew it. I was in the plantation house. I wasn't stupid. So I thought, well, you know, maybe we can take some things. Well, we can take. You know, I know where I am. We can take some stuff. We can steal it back, right? Because the undercommons, Fred Moten and Steve Harney's seminal piece coming out of 08 and 12 that grad students loved, stealing from the institution and remaking it. Maybe in order to do that, people have to actually want to do that. And I realized very quickly, no, you don't. You want to be at that table. You want to be at that table because this is how good these projects are good at. They get you to not realize that you've just digested that shit and you're spitting it out. And so I had to figure out what does it mean, right, to be in these spaces? And then so I reached out to other Black women who also knew them. And I realized, oh, this is how we kill ourselves because there was no stopping. They all kept going. One got tenure, another one is now a provost at the first Black provost in the ACM, right? These are people I used to work with, and also people we don't talk anymore. We don't talk, and it's not because somebody fell out or anything like that. It's because the spaces aren't conducive for those kind of long-term relationships when you're not still a part of that system because we don't know how to care for ourselves, therefore one another. We think we're maintaining relationships, right? But in actuality, it's just another place that we become the kind of embodiment for these institutions when you're not very clear about the institution you're in. They don't want to be fixed, y'all. And that was the thing about Deborah, about Carla, about the elder that I saw yesterday, about others that I've been in rooms with and had the privilege, quite frankly, the actual privilege to be in space with, to learn from. They all felt in one way, shape, or form that they could fix the space, fix this location, fix the society. I did too for a very long time. Let's fix it, right? Here's the problem. Here's the problem. See, here's the problem. If we see the problem, we can then go ahead and, do something different. There's a big assumption with that. There's a big assumption that we have to question right now. We're assuming that the space wants to and can be fixed. And we're also assuming that's the only template to do it through and from, so that we have to fix it. What happens if that's the lie, y'all? What happens if that's the lie? What happens if we just believe that they don't want to be fixed, that this is exactly what freedom and democracy is? This is what this leadership, this patriarchy, this kind of father figure wants in the beholden, in the eyes of their God. Their God's a jealous God. Their God's a patriarchal God. Their God, for shits and giggles, likes to put his disciples through, all kinds of games. Kill your son. Oops, never mind. Have sex with your daughters. Oops, never mind. I mean, this is all in the Bible, y'all. You know what I'm saying? If we believe that, then what would we actually do? How would we care for ourselves then? How would we take back our bodies? By taking back our hearts, by believing our hearts, right? Because they're kind of broken. They're kind of broken, and it's scary. I was scared shitless yesterday thinking about this is a very possible future. It's a very possible future for me, for my other friend, for a lot of my friends who are queer and Black and whose families have kind of disowned us or don't fuck with us or aren't really there for us because they bought into the idea of family having to be hetero in one way, shape, or form. And it's just too uncomfortable to see the queer kid, the queer adult, actually, because all of us are in our early 40s, right? As we're coming to the kind of hard realization that if we're only going to save ourselves and we have to create everything, what does it mean to create family again from the ground up then? What does it look like to have different systems? Because the first system of care that we come into is the family. But if our family doesn't know how to care for us, if our family rejects us, if our family does what society tells them to do, discipline us into a script, and if we can't do it, right? How do we almost lovingly be like, well, then that's really not the family for us. That was just a structure that got me into this world. And now that I'm here, if I want to live, then what does that mean? Well, then I have to create the systems in which living can occur. So do you want to live, y'all? That's the question I ask. And I really do mean that. Do you want to live? And what does that mean? Because Aquarius right now, all the personal planets, Mercury is there. Mercury's going to move into Pisces later this week, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But right now it's at the end of Aquarius. And when Mercury's in Aquarius, it's considered genius energy, right? It's the higher octave. And there's a way that we have to question this idea of genius as well. This idea of innovation, this idea of who we look to as a genius, as innovative. Because again, like I said, all the Black women, queer and straight, who have passed or who are sick in my life are absolutely brilliant. They're PhDs, they're lawyers, they're doctors, right? And it's not just the degree, it's that the degree is the kind of example of that intelligence that had to be kind of narrowed into a way that it can be seen, right? And society understands intelligence through those means when you don't have a white male body. But if they were white men, I'm telling you right now, all of them would be alive and or be absolute millionaires because they would have the support. They would have a wife. They would have their ability to have their kind of eccentricities seen as just part of the process. They would have been given a lot of different concessions, right? There would have been space made because the way we understand genius in this fucked up society is through a white male straight body. So we have to start questioning all of these things, y'all. Because is that really genius? What has it gotten us? Because the genius that we are seeing is this so-called promise of a future in which these technocrats and these techno bros are literally saying that we may not be alive. Oh, well, it's just kind of cool to think about that. How is that genius, y'all? Who are we looking to as our leaders? Right? The Leo, the kind of the heart. Who are we looking to as leaders, and what do we need to kind of re-examine, reimagine, reconstruct as a leader? Because the patriarch has shown that it cannot do its job. It has shown that for millennia. So why do we still keep seeking the same type of embodiment of that leadership? Right? People keep talking about the Jasmine Crockett, her running mate down in Texas. That was been up and down, these kind of conversations. And a lot of folks, leftists in particular, or liberals who are trying to be quote unquote strategic, are saying, well, no, the other dude's got to come in. I really forgot his name. Lord have mercy. I literally forgot that man's name. But he needs to come in because no one's going to vote for a Black woman. That's the fucking problem, y'all. You say you want revolution, you say you want change, but then minute change comes knocking at the goddamn door, which will require you to do something different. You kowtow, throw your fucking hands up and say, oh, but no one's going to vote for them, so we got to go back to the same old script. A goddamn conforming ass white man. And when I say white man, it's not just the body, it's the institution of white men. Sarah Ahmed's work, where she talks about the institution of white men being one that has to break. And it becomes embodied in a white male body, but it's not the only place that we see it, because we see a lot of goddamn leaders who occupy the margins, who are the biggest white men in the fucking room. Why? Because we have been taught that in order then to be seen in these spaces, you got to show up and be that white man more than the white man himself is. That is the institutionalization, right? That we have all been groomed into, that must now break. Aquarius is saying, with Pluto there, where does the collective need to die so that it can start to see leadership in the self? Opposite Leo, y'all, opposite the heart. Pluto needs your heart to open up. It needs you to crack open. It needs you to die. What is dying? The script and performance and identity that you were told to put on. It doesn't work. What would it happen if you took it off? What would happen if you actually told somebody what it is you need by first telling yourself what it is you need? Look in the fucking mirror, turn it around and talk to yourself and be honest with the self. Like I said, I've got a number of different events coming up this month, starting next week. So pop up at Babe Sports Bar. I will be there, the west side of Chicago. It's February 14th. I'll be doing pop-up astrology readings, 20 minutes. Come on now, let's have some fun. with the cosmos and love, and figure out what does love mean in a time of war, right? And then later on, I'll be at Babes on the 25th of the month. I'm doing queering astrology of 2026. So we'll be having a conversation about the major transits and what does it mean to queer these concepts, okay? Queer the transits so that we can work with it so they don't work us, all right? And then I'll be at Dorothy's on the 17th for my last Queering Chaos conversation, queering dreams and dreaming. I'm going to show a template of how I dream with folks. And then also, I've got a number of different readings, y'all. So last thing I'll say is if you are interested in having a reading with me, in particular, learning how to work with Saturn through as her being a crone, or middle age, or just figuring out how to work with this energy of this year. I have a number of new offerings available. So you can go to my website. If you're on the Patreon, there is a special code you can use for 20% off any reading. And if you're not, you can use the code 2026 for 10% off any reading. Okay, y'all? But check the show notes. I'll have the links for the different courses and the events I'll be at. And if you're in the Patreon, check out, I will have this week the calendar up for the month. Okay? All right, y'all. Check in with your hearts. Check in with your hearts and see what your heart is asking you. See what your inner child needs from you. And allow yourself to flow with that. See what comes out if you believe yourself and not just buy into what the collective tells you who you are. Okay? All right, y'all. Keep dreaming, keep exploring, because it's through the dreamscapes we can bring our futures we want into the present. Till next time. I get why I'm angry now. I betrayed myself. Let others' opinions of me dominate my sense of self. Allowed myself to wallow in a pool of regret mixed with loneliness that remained stagnant. Had folks in my home who turned it into theirs, then seemed annoyed I was still there. I get why I'm angry now. I betrayed myself. Allowed trauma I had repressed to turn into an armor. I became my own mask to protect the femme and child within me. Therapist had me fucked up when she said through that Zoom screen.
Your feet to the fire, you won't let go. You're screaming for water, but you won't let go. It keeps getting harder, you won't let go. The danger don't matter. Cause you won't be designed. Now you won't let go. 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 La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Fire came next and burned up and out of me for the next 3 years. Allowed folks to tell me who I was as they took more and more. All in the name of love till that love turned cold. Where there was once joy, now only a void. Wanting to go, the monster steady knocking at the door of my heart. Not seeing a heart, but a light to draw from. Till there was no more.
Run, run, run away. Far, far, far away. Wherever you go, there you are with the bag you're carrying. Run, run, run away. Far, far, far away. Wherever you go, there you are with the bag you're carrying. You live with the pain, you won't let it go. Yeah, waiting on the world to change, you won't let it go. It all stays the same, you won't let it go.
I get why I was angry, as now that cup is running over, from love of life from people who shine so bright, such warmth and delight upon us seeing one another's light, that cut through the heat of self-flagellation, a warmth that tamed the fire within, which kept me in a tailspin of past grievances, rumination over what could have been, what I did wrong, why I was wronged, why I was wrong. No way out until arms wrap themselves around me. You ain't gotta do this by yourself, baby. Love, true love had entered. My child and femme felt safe. They are out and learning to play. I get why I was angry. All that anger was my protection from hard realities that I had transmuted into other fantasies. Then the fantasies became reality. A veil of self-delusion that eventually cracked and broke me wide open. The anger had to come out. Like melodies from heaven, it rained down on me, molten lava, melting away the layers that had built up over 4 decades, till it was just me. Finally. I know why I was angry, and the anger served its purpose. Showed me how I betrayed myself to be of service to others who could not see themselves without my light, until that perfection burned a little too bright. Now, let's see what leading with sweetness feels like.